I'm somebody who had multiple chemical sensitivities about 15 years ago in my own life. If there are parts of our brain that are not working as well as they should, you can actually train them to upregulate more blood and more oxygen. And when we look at conditions like chronic fatigue syndrome, etc., sometimes it involves a dysregulation of blood flow, particularly to the brain. And so you can potentially kickstart your brain's appropriate utilization of resources by doing things like,
when you're stuck in overdrive, you've got the racing thoughts, you've got that wired nervous system, that intense exhaustion. Like, what if right in those moments you could actually see right then what your brain is doing and then have something tell you how to shift it out of that state? That's what my incredible guest today, oh, she's phenomenal, set out to make possible and achieved it. If you're new here, I'm Raelan Agle, and this is where we dive into real stories of people getting fully past conditions like ME/CFS and Long COVID. No gatekeeping, no fluff. If it works, we talk about it. Today, I'm joined by Ariel Garten, tuning in from Toronto, Canada. She is a neuroscientist, a former psychotherapist, and co-founder of Muse. And if you're new to this, I know many of you are not, but it is the brain sensing headband that's now helped over 500,000 people improve their health, reduce stress, and get better sleep. Now, full disclosure, I am a Muse superfan. I've been using it for a long time, which is why I invited Ariel to be a guest on this channel. And I was over the moon when she said, yes, this is going to be such a great conversation. And it is a tool that I can no longer live without. I've been using it for a long time daily, and it is, I can tell you from experience, it is a game changer. It gives you real-time feedback on how your nervous system is doing, what your brain is doing, and then teaches you how to shift out of fight or flight and calm things down quickly. And this is the real deal. There are hundreds of studies backing up the efficacy of this, and it is now being studied for support for people with long COVID and has already been studied for so many other conditions and shown incredible results. So right now we're going to dive into exciting stuff, how it works, how to use it to supercharge your brain retraining that you're doing and your nervous system regulation, and hear from Ariel the incredible outcomes of the latest research on Muse. This is so exciting. So let's welcome Ariel Garten. Ariel, I couldn't possibly be more excited to have you here and to be talking with you today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you. It's great.
So, so many amazing things to get into. I am such a fan of what you do, what you've created, but I'm curious, what got you into this? What got you interested in this area of work? How did you get to be sitting here now doing what you do?
So I was always interested in the brain, and I was interested in how the brain creates our experience of life. I wondered why we perceived things as hard. I wondered why we were beings that could think about thinking. So I went to school for neuroscience, and along the way began collaborating with a professor at the University of Toronto who had an early brain-computer interface system. And we started using that to track people's brain activity and give them feedback to know when they were focused, when their mind was wandering, and make that into audio and visual experiences. So, the genesis of all this came from my own curiosity about the brain and then how we could make it accessible and interactive. And along the way, I went to school for psychotherapy and had a psychotherapy practice. And so, the winding together and the application of the thoughts that we have, the organ of the brain that generates those thoughts, and the interplay between the two, how our brain can change our thoughts, how our thoughts can change our brain, became really fascinating to me. And with all of those pieces wrapped together, we ended up building Muse as a brain sensing headband that at first could help you meditate and take what's in your mind and make it actionable and tangible, and then eventually evolved it into a full brain health tool.
This is fascinating. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you here is we talk a lot on this channel about the brain. Most of us are just learning. None of us were really taught this or studied this in school, how it impacts everything in our body, our experience of life, our health, the symptoms we're having, our anxiety, some of these things that we thought we were just born with and were unchangeable. We're seeing that that's not the case. So to have someone with your background and your understanding of all of this is just, I'm so excited to get to pick your brain. And I am a Muse super fan, 100%. It is a life-changing thing to use. I don't want to be the one to explain it because I won't do it justice. I don't think I can explain it the way that you can, but it's just, I've tried lots of different devices and wearables and different things, and they all have some value, but mostly I find either it's giving you a lot of information and I don't know what to do with it, or I'm not getting any information, but I'm just using it and supposed to just be trusting that it's doing something good, but I don't know how to tell. Whereas I find Muse gives you both. It gives you a lot of information, but not in an easy digest way. And not just information, but information in real time. So you can use it in the moment while also teaching you things and showing you how to, work with this and how to improve things. So for people who aren't aware, and so many people are, because I've talked about Muse in other videos and I get so many comments, people have been using it forever. Like I'm really late to join this party. But for people who aren't aware, tell us, what exactly is Muse?
Sure. First of all, it's always awesome I didn't know coming into this interview that you were a muser and that you used and loved Muse. So it's awesome to meet you. And I'm also super excited to hear about your story and how you use it. But to back up a little bit for the audience. So Muse is a clinical grade EEG. It has sensors on the forehead and behind the ears, and it's able to track your brain activity and then give you real-time feedback to help you improve your mind. We have a few different Muse versions, which I can get into. In the classic Muse experience, you're meditating with Muse, and Muse is giving you real-time audio guidance to let you know when you're focused in meditation and when your mind is wandering. So we all obviously know that meditation is good for you, and meditation is also incredibly hard to do. It's normally you just sit there and your brain is bouncing all over the place and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like meditation's not for me. And you just get up and walk away. And so we really wanted to solve that problem by teaching people what was going on in their mind, letting them understand, and then guiding you into a better meditation practice. So with Muse, as you meditate, when you're in focused attention, you hear nice, gentle, quiet sounds. If you stay there a long time, you hear the birds chirp. And then as soon as your mind wanders onto a thought, which all our minds do, you hear the sound of rain pick up. So all of a sudden the weather gets noisy. And that becomes your cue to be like, oh, I'm no longer meditating, right? And then you bring your attention back to your breath and the rain quiets down. And so it's this really beautiful experience that's gently guiding you into the place of meditation and encouraging and reinforcing you, both from a cognitive perspective, you're like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Okay, right, I'm here. As well as from a kind of operant conditioning perspective, because when you're in that brain state, the little birds start chirping. So that becomes a reward to your brain to say, yep, brain, that's the right state. You stay there. And our brains respond really quickly and learn. And it ends up for many people either being the first way that they learned to meditate, like finally it made sense. Or if you have an established practice, it's a new approach to get you to go even deeper.
This is one of my favorite things about it. There are lots that I love, but I've been an on and off meditator for decades, and I found it helpful always to some degree, but I would begin meditating and sometimes 10 minutes could go by and I'd realize all I've been thinking about is meal planning for the week and what I'm going to say in that meeting that's happening this afternoon before I bring myself back. Whereas when I'm using Muse, I get so many opportunities to sort of, strengthen that muscle of bringing back calm. And at first I worried that the rain was going to stress me out, like, oh no, I'm failing. But it's such a gentle sound and it's so nice and rewarding when you see that you very quickly start building up that ability to bring back that calm and those birds come and it's just magical. I'm like, I'm doing it. And if I do this before bed, and I know there are things built specifically into it to help with sleep, like the digital sleeping pills, and you can wear, some of the devices throughout the night that can help you if you wake up in the night. And I'd love for you to explain how that works. But even just doing, and this just can be an 8-minute session with Muse before bed, because normally I have to read for about 45 minutes before bed before I can sleep. It just takes that long to calm my brain down before I can actually go to sleep. And then now I do my 8-minute or however long session with Muse, and I've been a problematic sleeper my whole life. So this is not something that comes easily for me. And then I pick up my book. I'm like, nope, don't need it. And I just go straight to sleep. So it's just, that's one of the ways that it has been really, truly so helpful for me. Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, we actually built the sleep tools in Muse because we heard that from a number of people, that they'd be using just a regular, like core Muse mind meditation before bed, and it would help them fall asleep. And so then we said, aha, we know how to make this even better. And so we went from our original versions of the Muse or the Muse 2 to a soft band version that is super comfy to wear while you sleep, so that you can do soundscapes, guidances, Muse meditations, digital sleeping pill as you're falling asleep, and then continue to wear the Muse throughout the night. And we are actually able to score and stage your sleep as effectively as a sleep lab. So I just came back from the Sleep 2025 conference in Seattle. It's a major convening of sleep doctors and sleep researchers. And many of the sleep researchers, they're actually doing studies with Muse for sleep. So it is used actually for sleep research in place of sending somebody to a sleep lab.
Wow. In my whole life, I wanted to do sleep study because I've struggled since I was an adolescent. It's incredible. You think just suck it up and go when you struggle this much. But the idea of going to some place and sleeping there, and it was just so awful sounding. And I thought, I can't sleep in my own bed. I'm not even going to sleep at all there. What is this going to tell me? So to be able to get that information in the moment is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. We have studies in many different populations, most of whom wouldn't normally be able to go into a sleep lab. So we have studies with patients with Parkinson's, with Alzheimer's. When I say we, our partners at Harvard and Stanford and the Canadian Sleep Research Consortium, they're all doing studies using Muse, and either using Muse as a sleep tracking tool, instead of a sleep lab, or using it interventionally. So Mayo Clinic did a study actually with long COVID patients using Muse and saw that it improved their cognition and decreased stress and anxiety. And now they're actually doing a study specifically to see how Muse improves sleep in long COVID patients. So they're doing a second extension study.
Wow, that is incredible. And it's not even, when you're wearing it at night, it's not even that it's just doing a sleep study. If you wake up, there are things to help pull you back into sleep. So explain how that works.
Yeah, so we created a beautiful experience called the digital sleeping pill. And for people who have difficulty sleeping, it becomes like a lifeline to help you sleep. And what we're doing is actually adjusting the audio based on your brain state. So the Muse is tracking your brain state from wakefulness into sleep. And as it sees that you're beginning to transition into N1, into the first stage of sleep, the hypnagogic state, it starts to morph the audio that you're listening to. So you might be listening to a soundscape or a sleep story, and the audio starts to slow down and soften and change in a way that actually encourages your brain to disengage and drop into sleep. And so it does this a few times until you're deep in sleep. Then it turns off the audio. And if you continue to wear the Muse throughout the night, if you wake up in the middle of the night, it then brings in the same experience that helped you fall asleep the first time, which has now become a sleep cue for you to help you fall back asleep. And it's highly successful. Studies have demonstrated it's improved sleep quality by over 20%.
Wow. Yeah, it's a massive, massive one for people. Like I was explaining before we got on, most of the people that watch this channel are facing really hard things like long COVID or ME/CFS. And for virtually everyone I talk to, sleep is a massive part of that, sleep issues. And when you're not sleeping well, it's really hard to tackle everything else in your life that you need to get past these conditions. It's so important. And we always saying, well, you need to prioritize sleep. And understandably, people get frustrated. They're like, oh, I would like to. I like how. So I can attest that this, for my own usage of it, it is incredibly helpful. It really is a game changer when it comes to sleep. But Muse does so much more than just help with sleep or teach you. And it's not even just with the meditation, with the sounds. It's like a built-in meditation teacher right in the app. It's just got so many great things. But Muse does more than just this. So tell us about some of the other things that Muse also does.
Sure. So we've really built Muse as a total brain health tool. And it's been an incredible journey expanding the capabilities. And as we do more studies, we bring more of the features into consumers to be able to have the features that have been validated in the lab. And our newest device, which is the Muse-S Athena, actually has not just EEG. So EEG is tracking the electrical activity of your brain, but it also has a technology called FNIRS, frontal near infrared spectroscopy. That's these little windows here. And it kind of works like a mini fMRI. So in an fMRI, what you're looking at is the oxygenation and the activity of a part of your brain that is engaged or at work. And here we can use red and infrared light to actually look at the oxygenation of your prefrontal cortex, the area in the front of your head, and we can see how much oxygen is flowing to it. And we also give you exercises to do neurofeedback and train to upregulate to increase the blood and oxygen flow to the front of your brain.
And why is that important?
It is incredibly important because oxygen is the thing that enables your brain to have energy. So in the same way as you go and you do a workout and, you're straining your muscles then demand more blood and oxygen in the blood in order to make all the things they need to grow, develop, and work. The same with your brain. So when you think or you do anything, you are theoretically demanding more blood and more oxygen to that part of the brain. But if there are parts of our brain that are not working as well as they should, you can actually train them to upregulate more blood and more oxygen. And when we look at conditions like chronic fatigue syndrome, etc., post-concussion syndrome, sometimes it involves a dysregulation of blood flow, particularly to the brain. And so you can potentially kickstart your brain's appropriate utilization of resources by doing things like prefrontal oxygenation neurofeedback.
Incredible. Before Muse, I didn't even know that this was a thing or that it was important or that and if it was, I certainly would have thought I have no ability to change this. How am I going to change my brain or oxygenation or anything related to that? So that's really incredible. Another feature that I really like, and I know people have told me here who watch this channel that it is the breathwork component, because a lot of people because many people dealing with these conditions have found that working with their autonomic nervous system and their body's threat assessment systems and the brain and just calming down, they find they're in a sort of chronic fight or flight. So breathwork can be really helpful. But then also we forget to do it, or you're like, what's that exercise again? And you're like counting things in your head, but Muse actually teaches you and walks you through breath work. And you can explain that a lot better than I can. So I think that would be a helpful one that people would appreciate hearing about.
Sure. So yes, breath work is incredibly powerful at shifting your physiology and taking you from anxiety into a state of calm and bringing you out of fight or flight. So breathwork is really powerful for many reasons. In Muse, what we do is we actually are able to monitor your breath rate. So in real time, we can see when you're breathing in and when you're breathing out. And we give you audio guides to know when to breathe in and when to breathe out in order to optimize your cardiovascular fitness and to help your body calm. So to dive into why it works for a second, you've probably heard of your vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is the nerve in your neck that goes all the way down past your lungs, and it's even attached to your diaphragm. And your vagus nerve is responsible for moving your body into rest and digest. And when you breathe in into your tummy, it is mechanically tugging on your vagus nerve. So it's really signaling to your vagus nerve that, like, we can relax, we can calm down. And there's this amazing phenomenon called the sinusoidal arrhythmia. So when you breathe in, your heart rate increases, and when you breathe out, your heart rate decreases. And in order to be more relaxed, you want to spend more and more time in a slow out breath. So you have more time when your heart rate is decreasing, thereby signaling to your whole body that it can go into rest and digest. And depending on what you need, if you're somebody who is dealing with anxiety and a lot of triggers, then you want to do a breathwork pattern that is going to calm and slow your physiology. Other people might be dealing with, low blood pressure and difficulties in autonomic regulation that involved autonomic nervous system that is sluggish and not working effectively enough. And then you can potentially bring in breath patterns to drive your system harder and to move blood and oxygen through yourself more effectively and get your heart pumping.
And all of that, amazing. And I'm one of those people that hears all of that and is like, yes, it's important, I should do it. And then I still just don't want to just sit and do breathwork sessions. But when all I have to do, it's like when you don't want to exercise and then you just show up at a group fitness class, you're like, all I have to do is show up. And then the rest is just going to happen. So with this one, I put the headband on, put my headphones in, and then I don't have to think about it. I don't have to figure out what I'm doing or how long I'm doing or counting my exhales. Like, it just really just walks you all through it. So you just get to sit there and just do the whole experience. So if there's people out there that are like me, that are like, yeah, I know I should do it, but I don't love doing it, this makes it a far more, just an easier experience. And I trust that I'm doing it correctly because I know I'm being walked through it by people who have studied this and carefully designed it. So it's a really great breathwork tool and has gotten me on board with breathwork, someone who hasn't been so on board in the past.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's really good. Another thing that I find it really helps with, we talk about we're trying to stay out of fight or flight, is that I find that in the morning I wake up and quite often, before I've even opened my eyes, before my feet have even touched the ground, my brain starts going and I start thinking about the whole day ahead of me and everything that I'm going to do. Or if you're unwell, you're like, what symptoms am I going to have today? And how am I I really need to take a shower. It's been 5 days. Like, am I going to be able to take a shower today? So something that helps me, I've just paired it as a habit that it's the first thing I use when I wake up in the morning and it's the last thing I use before I go to bed. And it helped. And even just getting myself out of bed. Some days I'm just like, I just don't want to do this today, whatever it is. But when I know all I'm going to do is tilt myself up in bed and put the headband on, and I'll just do a short 10-minute, one of the Muse experiences. And for one, it gets me up because I'm like, this is easy. I can do this. It's going to be enjoyable. I can put this on. And then I start out my day in such a better headspace. So instead of starting with spiraling or depression or dread or anxiety about what's ahead, I ease into this and then I take it off and I feel so much better. So yeah, those are just some of the many ways it's been really genuinely helpful for me. It's one of my favorite things for sure.
Oh, amazing. Which exercise do you like to do in the morning?
I mix it up, but generally it's just like a short one of the meditation ones, or it doesn't even really matter. Whatever I do, it just puts me into good space for the day. There's another feature I'd love for you to talk about that I don't even fully understand, but I remember hearing about how, some monks can control their heart rate. And I thought, wow, that must take hundreds of hours of study and some sort of superhuman next level abilities to be able to control what's happening in your body. But there's also features in Muse that work with that. So could you tell us a bit about that? What is happening there? Why is it important? How does it work?
Totally. So we've talked about the mind meditation, which is the focused attention meditation. We've talked about breath meditation. Heart meditation is getting you to listen to the sound of your heart. And it tunes something called your interoception, your ability to sensitively understand your internal state. And for people who are super stressed and super disconnected from their bodies, this can be a really useful tool to help them learn to connect to their body. And actually, I had researchers recently contact me out of the blue and said, like, hey, can you tell us more about this? Because we're writing up a paper about how Muse's heart meditation helps improve interoception. So I was like, oh, okay, great. Glad it works yet again. So what you're doing there is you're literally listening to the sound of the beating of your heart like the beating of a drum. And you listen to when your heartbeat increases and when your heartbeat decreases in what I was just referring to, your sinusoidal arrhythmia. So when you breathe in, your heart rate increases. When you breathe out, your heart rate decreases. And it's actually a really wonderful experience. And at the end, you see a graph of your heart rate. And when you're really stressed, your heart rate doesn't go up and down so much. Your HRV is not that high. And when you're relaxed, your heart rate goes up and down, indicating a high HRV, heart rate variability, which we know is associated to better health. And ways to increase your heart rate variability include doing exercise regularly and doing breath work, training yourself in methodologies of increasing your heart rate and decreasing your heart rate as you breathe in, and nice long exhales breathing out. So it can be both a really cool thing just to hear your own heartbeat and actually help you train your HRV.
So I have no doubt that you have a lot of examples or people who have reached out to say the way they're using it or how it helps them the most, or are you aware of people who are facing nervous system regulation conditions or stress, fight or flight conditions that they're using this? Like, what are some of the ways people are saying that this has impacted them or helped them in their lives?
There are many, 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 many emails that we get talking about how it's impacted their life, which is awesome. Bringing it into nervous system regulation. So when and by the way, I'm somebody who had multiple chemical sensitivities about 15 years ago in my own life. And so I went on my own journey prior to Muse being a product and market. I went on my own journey of intense psychotherapy, hypnotherapy. I did Annie's dynamic neural retraining systems, which was amazing. And I used Muse constantly through the process of building it. And so for me, the process of learning to calm my mind and body and self-regulate using things like meditation practice were huge. Because in my MCS, I would be faced with a trigger, and meditation would help two ways. One was the obvious way in which, okay, your anxiety is rising, you need a methodology to calm yourself down. And you're creating all of these thoughts about the thing, you need a methodology to calm your thoughts. And so meditating, specifically with Muse, because that's how I actually learned to meditate, finally, it gives you this methodology to use where you know how to calm yourself, you know how to calm your heart, calm your body, chill out, it's okay. And you also know how to shift your mental state. So in Muse, you're practicing having a mind that's thinking about a million things and the problems and the symptoms in your body. And you are asked to move your attention away from that and onto something neutral. And then keep teaching yourself to move your attention away from your spiraling thoughts and onto something neutral. And so when I would then go out into the real world and I would be faced by a trigger and all of the thoughts would start to arise like, oh no, that thing's going to make me itchy. I better get rid of it. Who can help protect me from the Windex that somebody's spraying over there? Should I run over and scream at that person and tell them to stop? This is going to be familiar to anyone who has multiple chemical sensitivities who's listening. Yeah. So you not only have to calm yourself down in the moment, but you also have to learn to shift your thoughts, because it is the danger thoughts that then reinforce to your body that there is something wrong with the Windex, when in reality, there's not. In reality, it is your own hyperreaction trying to protect you from the Windex that is, misaligned with the reality of the Windex 50 feet away, not actually going to harm you, even though I can smell it from 50 feet away. So things that I learned in Muse became incredibly key to help me make that mental shift from just feeling like victimized by all the smells and chemicals and things in the world that would give me symptoms, to being able to shift to say, hey, I know I might have some thoughts and feelings around this, but it doesn't mean the thing is bad. And then to go into the process of retraining and rewiring, and DNRS was so key for this, paired with the training of meditation and being able to shift my mind. But I needed, the DNRS methodology was really key to help me shift my mind and shift my understanding in the paradigm that I'm not a victim of these things. I can simply coexist. And when I calm my mind and body and I disengage from the symptoms and I disengage from the endless chatter and fear associated with them, I can start to change my relationship to the things in my world and heal and return to just a normal way of being.
Yeah, we talk a lot about here on the channel about brain retraining and about our responses to things. And it really is the ultimate, for me, it feels like the ultimate training tool. So I just want to thank you for sharing your own experience with this, because I think that will mean a lot to people and be very relatable. Like, how does this relate to me? How does this help me not just navigate life, but this current condition that I'm facing where I really want to work with my brain and my nervous system? So it just shows, you know, how it can really genuinely help with that. And I know it can be hard to know what to trust. Like, I know I have a lot of companies reaching out to me wanting to send me products, but then I look at them and I think, I don't know how to vet this. I can't see any research behind it. Maybe it's great, but I just don't know. So then, I turn it down. But I know that is absolutely not the case with Muse. So I think it's just important to point out, how this was created, the research behind it, who is supporting it, who is using it. So if you could tell us a bit about that, that would be wonderful.
Sure. So we've been fortunate enough to be used in hundreds and hundreds of published research studies. Wow. Some of the great highlights are the Mayo Clinic. So I met an integrative medicine cancer doctor in 2015, and she was from the Mayo Clinic, and she brought Muse into the very first trial that they did, and that was with breast cancer patients awaiting surgery. And they used Muse they were just told a minimum of 3 minutes a day for 3 months. And they saw significant improvements in their quality of life and decrease in stress and fatigue during the cancer care process. And then from there, more doctors at Mayo started to use Muse and run more studies with it. So there was a study in Cushing syndrome with Dr. Ranabancos demonstrating that Muse improved even biochemistry, so the symptoms as well as the endocrine chemistry in Cushing syndrome, and another study with fibromyalgia that's about to be published demonstrating Muse improves symptoms in fibromyalgia patients. More cancer studies. They actually did a study with Mayo's own doctors using Muse, and it improved their stress, fatigue, and burnout. And then there was the Mayo Long Covid study that I just referenced earlier about it improving long COVID symptoms. So it's been amazing. And that's just one institution that's been working with Muse. So it's quite an honor to have had our tools, taken up and validated by the top doctors and validating that it works, and then being able to take those insights and that research and pass it back along to the people that use it every day in their own lives.
Yes. And it's not only that it's been tested and we know that it works and it is scientifically backed and we, that is not disputable, but what is really incredible is that we are now taking what would have taken a room full of equipment in some fancy facility with a bunch of highly trained people to be able to read the results. And now we get to do that at home or wherever we are, with a headband and our phone, which is so incredible. It's just making this way more accessible for people to be able to get this sort of information. And I find it's good for even just targeted use. If I have what I know is going to be a stressful meeting, I might use it for a few minutes before or a few minutes after. It's something that's, portable, and I take it on vacation with me. And it even in an environment where you're already relaxed, and it just makes it even better that, I challenged myself to find the most beautiful spots, and then I would sit down and use it and just have this really beautiful, calming experience. So I am a super fan. I know people have said it sounds like I work at Muse. I do not.
Nope, we've never met before.
You didn't even know I had Muse before we started this conversation.
I had an invitation to a podcast. I accepted it because I've also had MCS. Yeah, and so I had no idea.
Yeah, I know. I have to be, because I know it really sounds like I'm like, yeah, I've drank the Kool-Aid. No, it's just I've been using it for a long time, and I've seen that it works, and I've been talking about it, in my own programs. Like I have my own recovery courses and Facebook groups. And every time I do, people speak up about how they've been using it. 100% of the time, the feedback is positive, how it's been helpful for them. So I wanted to bring you here because I know it's something that is truly impactful and has the potential to help the people who are, that are watchers and subscribers here. So we have a link I can put in the video description. I believe it gets you a discount. So if you want to check it out, but at a minimum, the link is there. You can go take a look. I really encourage people to be curious about this and go take a look and see what's there and see if it might be something that's a good fit for you. Yes. Thank you so much for being here. I can link actually one of the videos where it sounds like I work for Muse. Again, I don't. I actually did it in Bora Bora, so it's beautiful. So you get to see beautiful Bora Bora and also learn about how I've been using it in a little bit more of what it actually looks like in the moment when you're using it. But yeah, I really appreciate you being here, Ariel. This has been incredibly helpful, and I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing and the countless people that are benefiting because of it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor and a pleasure for me to be able to be here and meet you and hear your story and hear the other people that it's been helpful for. And when we created it, the dream, the biggest, wildest dream is, can we actually do something that's going to actually help people? Yeah. And it's every day it's extraordinary that has come true. And so I only hope it continues to serve.
I have no doubt that it will. So yeah, thank you again. Thanks to those of you watching, and I hope to see you in this next video of me in Bora Bora using Muse.